What's up, friends? Tony Schaefer here, Musician's Motivation. And today, this is actually going to turn into a little bit of artistic motivation. As you know, this is being recorded in 2020, the year of the coronavirus. As a musician of 20 years, I love writing, I love recording, I love rehearsing, I love sitting around with the band talking about big plans and great ideas. But at the end of the day, the most rewarding element for me as a musician is performing live in front of people. Getting that feedback from the crowd is the number one payoff for me. Even if I've got a great recording, it's a banging track, I think it's awesome. Sitting in a car with somebody being like, yeah, this is it, this is the new track, what do you think? Even if they love it, that reaction pales in comparison to being on stage and having hundreds or thousands of people right there with you in the moment. And this year, that has completely changed. So I purchased a camera about a month ago, and it was really just for my girlfriend Tori and I to get pictures of the kids, family outings, our vacations. But about 3 pictures in, I realized I was in trouble because I loved it. It offered all of the creative elements that I really just adored about music. I could be creative, I could frame things, I could tell a story with one picture. And so it allowed me to start looking at the same old dreary landscapes, especially in rural Ohio, let's be real here, and trying to find an element that could inspire, try to find an angle that could inspire. On top of that, I am a huge gear nut, okay? So you can see I've got my keyboards behind me. You can't see it, but over there I've got my guitars on the wall. I've got a ton of music gear. I love that one pedal effect might do this, another one might do that. This synthesizer specializes in this. This particular microphone captures that. I love the techie element of it. And photography, videography, cameras in general, there is no shortage of that. There is an immense amount of technology that goes into capturing the visuals, capturing the audio. What are you gonna do in post? Do you have a computer that's fast enough to do all of this? And putting it all together so that the viewer at the end of it has something engaging that they can watch, even if it's a minute long, was thrilling to me. But here's today's message. When you try something new, you're not gonna be very good at it. I dealt with this as a music instructor for years, watching the frustration of someone that they know they can hear the music in their head, they know how it's supposed to go, but their body, the mechanics, the motor skills required to pull it off just weren't developed enough. Now, getting into photography, the first few pictures I took, these are amazing. I love the lighting. I love it's focused. It's all very clear and sharp. But now I'm looking back at those images from even 3 or 4 weeks ago and I'm realizing, oh wow, the growth here is tremendous and even for weeks. Well, how did I get there? I'm realizing something about the creative arts and really with any kind of skill development. And this might seem common sense to some of you, but with the amount of questions I get about developing skills, I'm feeling that a lot of you don't really quite grasp what it takes to develop a skill. It takes obsession, it takes discipline, it takes hyper focus. And perhaps above all else, any skills that I've developed in my life, maybe it's music, maybe it's cooking, maybe it's social skills, maybe it's public speaking, maybe it's being cozy in front of a camera. All of those things took time. And time is a generic way of saying, well, I had to read about it, I had to watch videos about it, I took some master classes online for it, and I watched other people who excelled at it, and I modeled myself after them. So there's this intellectual part of learning a new skill where you have to really digest not only the literature and the video instructions on it, but you have to find other people who excel at it and kind of model yourself after what they've done. Well, who were their inspirations? Where did they go to learn these skills? Right? So that's the one element. That's the knowledge and cerebral element of it. The second part is the actual application. How many hours a day are you willing to sit there and do it over and over and over again until you develop the physical application of the skill? So for music, for an example, let's talk about scales. If you're a guitar player, da 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 da. Can you do that for 2 hours straight until you can do it without looking, until you can do it without thinking? That's why all the music instructors will be like, yes, learn this in the key of C, the easiest key to learn anything in, right? But then you gotta learn it out of C sharp and D and D sharp and E and F sharp and G, and each one's a little different, especially if you're on a keyboard. Guitars and mandolins, banjos, some of those might be a little easier, but at the end of the day, you have to know where you are and what you're doing, and that takes time. And as an instructor, I can tell you, I know when someone did it for 5 minutes a day compared to the person who did it for 30 minutes a day, compared to the person who did it an hour a day, and then compared to those who excelled, formed their own music projects, or went solo and are out there making money and making music now, because they're the ones who did it for 2+ hours every single day. That takes patience and it takes determination. Because you're like, oh man, this new Netflix special just came out and I really, really want to watch it, it's so good. But you should be sitting there practicing, developing that skill. And even if your hands are tired, your voice is tired, your back is tired, well, then pop open an instructional video, find an article about how to develop maybe the business side of what it is you're doing. And so, music aside, photography was exactly the same. Culinary arts, exactly the same. Painting, sketching, construction, right? Engineering, developing blueprints, learning how to make the perfect cup of coffee, developing interpersonal skills, right? Yoga, maybe it's public speaking. The list literally goes on and on and on and on. It takes discipline. You have to develop the cerebral element of it, and you have to develop the physical application element of it, and it takes time. So even if someone was naturally gifted, say you grew up and this, girl in high school was just a phenomenal singer right out the gate, and her mom's like, oh, she's been singing since she was 2, and you're like, man, I'm never gonna have that because she had this head start right out the gate. Well, let me tell you, there's a big difference between someone who has natural talent and doesn't really do anything with it, they just take it for granted and they kind of coast along on that natural ability, versus someone who may not have had as much natural ability but is dedicated and they do it every single day. They read about it, the cerebral, and then they do it, the physical application. That person is going to be far more valuable to the music community or whatever artistic community or skill that they're developing. They're gonna be far more valuable as someone who has work ethic and not as much natural skill than the person who has all the natural skill in the world but is lazy. Do you see where I'm going with that? I know people who are immensely naturally talented, but they have this laissez-faire of just like, it's never gonna work anyway, and that cynicism and self-doubt sets in, versus the person who may not be as talented, maybe even a quarter or even smaller of a percentage as talented as the person with natural ability, but they've got work ethic and they're obsessed and they've got drive and they focus. I can't give a name, but I'll never forget the first person I met in my local town. It's a small town in rural Ohio, right? This person came up, I was at the local recording studio, and it was probably 11:30 at night. We were outside smoking, doing whatever, right? And he came up and was like, I met Marilyn Manson's manager and Trent Reznor's manager, and we're going to this thing in Cleveland, Ohio, and I got this dinner, and I need to get these masters done, man, so that I can take them my demo and do all these things. This person was getting into backstage concerts, they were meeting booking agents, they were meeting artist development people, they were on it. Network. They were so incredibly focused, but their music really wasn't all that good. That's what happens. The naturally gifted people see that person excelling and be like, well, that's not fair. Like, I'm so talented. Why can't someone notice my talent from the couch? It takes drive and it takes skill and it takes obsession. So, my message today is if you're trying something new, if the coronavirus has put you out of work or put you in an uncomfortable position, now is the time to develop something new. But be warned, it's gonna take that discipline and drive. In other words, you're gonna suck at it for a little bit. I've been trying to get portraits and pictures of models and And I'm realizing very quickly that at first I had to get a sharp picture. It needed to be clear, the exposure needed to be right, the lighting needed to be right. It couldn't be too bright, couldn't be too dark. I needed to just work on the very basics of it, right? And then once I had the basics of my camera, I knew where all the settings were and I could do this. Well, now I have to direct a model. I'd be like, this is not very flattering, move your hip this way and bring your hair back and do that stuff, right? So there's this huge learning curve, especially when it comes to photographing people. But I'm not gonna give up. Every single day, I'm reading an article, I'm watching a video, I'm looking at other people's pictures, I'm looking at how those models are posed and where are they at, what's the composition, what's in the background. It's a skill that needs to be developed. So thank you for watching this today. I hope you go out and you think of something that you can do for the remainder of 2020. Give yourself 6 months, give yourself 90 days, and you're gonna notice that if you focus on the cerebral, become obsessed, give yourself an hour of every day to look at information and model yourself after other people, and then set aside some real quality time to go out and do it and practice it. And I believe that in 90 days, 6 months, you're gonna be excelling to a point where you might have found a new passion. You might find a new career, or at least a hobby that's gonna follow you for a lifetime. So long story short, allow yourself to suck. Thanks for watching. Please look out for more content. If you're watching this, please go over to oddfellow_photo and check out some of the pictures that I've been taking. You'll notice that they're getting better with each post that I make. And that is no accident. The cerebral and then the physical application. I love you all. Pursue something new. Give yourself the time to suck. I'll see you next time.